We continue to see an alarming trend of anti-Semitic threats and attacks targeting Jewish communities across the country, disturbing acts like ripping down posters of Jewish-held hostages by Hamas, vandalizing Jewish institutions, threatening to commit acts of violence against Jewish students. Anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and other forms of hate have no place in America, and we strongly condemn anyone who seeks to harm Jewish, Muslim, Arab, and Palestinian American or any other communities.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday. She said that there is a rising amount of anti-Semitic threats and attacks happening in the country. The White House is also focusing on Islamophobia and threats toward Arabs and Palestinian Americans. Anti-Israel protesters repeatedly interrupted and prevented Jewish students from speaking before Congress yesterday. The Senate Health Committee will be holding a roundtable on anti-Semitism on college campuses later today. Joining me right now is Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy. He is the ranking member of the Senate Health Committee. Senator, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Hey, thank you, Maria. Good to be with you.
So how would you assess the anti-Semitism and the White House's response to it? What can you, as a member of the Senate, do to calm things down?
By federal law, the administration is not just to condemn, but it is to make sure that any institution getting federal dollars is actually implementing policies to protect these students. Now, the administration may be doing it, but right now it seems like there's a lot of kids who feel threatened and frankly are threatened, hiding in a room as people bang on the door. And what is the administration doing to make sure that the universities are handling this appropriately? So we're going to have an oversight roundtable. I wish we could have a committee hearing, but my chairman didn't want to do so. So we're going to have an oversight and hear from the students, hear from people who are involved in higher education, get a sense of what is the performance of the administration.
Well, where is the Senate now on the Israel aid? Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is refusing to take up the House package. A majority of Senate Democrats signed a letter demanding assurances from President Biden on his Israel funding request. They want to make sure that Israel is abiding by the rules of law, they say, prioritizing the release of hostages and has a viable military plan, Senator. Schumer won't take the plan up because he wants it to be tied to Ukraine funding, right?
Well, there's different packages going forward. Schumer would like it tied to Ukraine funding. Republicans want it tied to the border. We got to control the border. But I think there's going to be a commitment to fund Israel, period, end of story. There's such a commitment to do that folks want to attach other things to it. We'll see. I personally think that we should continue to fund Ukraine. I say that because Ukraine's fighting Russia and not my daughter and not my son, not your children, grandchildren, et cetera. So I think it's a good idea. But in the meantime, I think Israel is funded, but we definitely need to fund the border. And I think that may be the linkage.
Well, I mean, when you say the Republicans want it tied to the border doesn't need any more money, right? So are you pressing
the border needs policy change.
Right. So are you pressing this president for policy change? Because, I mean, he's saying we're going to have this money to the border, that money to Ukraine, this money to Israel. There's no need for more money at the border. It's only going to be used to house more migrants. So how are you going to get this president to say, yeah, we'll tie it to the border, but it's got to be a policy change?
Because you got to have policy change. And what we're trying to figure out is how to put some teeth in it. Mr. President, if you don't actually use the resources and the laws that you have to control the border, then you don't get something that you want. Frankly, the trust is broken down with the administration. There's been too many times where they have made a commitment and they've not lived up to that commitment.
Right.
And so when we pass new legislation, boom, okay, you get something, but you better fulfill your obligation to control the southern border or else you don't get any more. And that's what we're trying to figure out.
Here's Tiana Lodesher. Go ahead, Tiana.
So sort of two questions related to the border and immigration. You know, obviously, the Senate is correct to be looking at defunding a lot of these universities that are not able to crack down on this anti-Semitism and, you know, blatant racial discrimination. But also, what about these foreign students who are here on student visas? Obviously, here in the country, you have a right to free speech. But if you're a foreign national, you don't have any right to maintain your visa if you're advocating for the genocide of the Jews. But further to that point, earlier we saw Secretary Mayorkas admit that he doesn't know how many people he has let into the country. Has the Senate considered impeaching Mayorkas, who seems like he might be the most vile of the Biden cabinet?
So impeachment does not start in the Senate. Impeachment starts in the House. And so we'll receive whatever they may initiate, but we don't actually do it ourselves. And frankly speaking, practically, Schumer is the leader. Democrats control the Senate. I wish they didn't, but they do. So Schumer is not going to allow that proceeding to begin. But to your point, about 8 million people have crossed that border since Joe Biden took the presidency. The last figure I heard was maybe 240 people have been apprehended who are on the terrorist watch list. So that's what I'm told, but considered a reliable source. So we clearly have a problem at the southern border. The president has different authorities that he can use. He's choosing not to use them. Your point, Mayorkas is kind of his lieutenant on this. Frankly, I think Biden's more responsible than Mayorkas. We got to do something, and that's what Republicans are trying to bargain for right now.
So let me ask you, Senator, a new Associated Press poll finds 63% of Americans disapprove of President Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war. 33% say they approve. Vice President Kamala Harris commented on being reelected in 2024. Watch this.
The president and I obviously have a lot of work to do to earn our reelection, but I am confident we're going to win.
She says she has a lot of work to do, Senator. What did you make of that answer?
Yeah, they got to improve their poll numbers. They got to somehow convince people that high inflation, that inflation outpacing wage increase, that paying more for everything is somehow a reason to reelect the guy.
Right.
I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that job.
All right, sir. Thanks very much for being here. Senator, who do you think is going to be the nominees on both sides in 2024?
Well, I don't know. Right now, Trump obviously is the one who's odds-on favorite for the Republican and Biden on the other side.
Yeah.
A lot of rumors that Biden may get jettisoned. And let's be honest, Trump's got a lot of legal issues. And so both of them are a little bit in play.
All right, we'll be watching that. Senator, good to talk with you this morning. Thanks very much. Bill Cassidy, you made me laugh there. All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us.